Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio. Ready to revolutionize your franchise with AI? Franchise Now empowers franchises with advanced AI solutions, automatic processes, and enhanced marketing strategies. From personalized customer interactions to predictive analytics, we help you harness AI to drive growth and efficiency. Transform your franchise with the power of AI. Visit Franchise Now to learn more and take your business into the future. Now, here's your host.
Welcome, everybody, to Franchise Marketing Radio, where we explore the latest strategies and innovations driving success in the franchise world. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and today we have a special guest with us. I have Roland Ligtenberg. He is the founder or co-founder of Housecall Pro. And so Housecall Pro specializes in the home services market in the franchise space as well. And they have an amazing SaaS platform and are innovating with AI every single day. Welcome to the show, Roland. It's good to have you.
Thanks, Rob. I'm super excited to be here.
Great to have you. So before we jump in, I wanted you to have an opportunity to introduce us to Housecall Pro for anyone who's listening, may be familiar. But tell us a little bit about the platform and on who you're serving. I know franchising is a big part, but tell us a little bit more about who you're serving overall.
Yeah, sure. Great. So Housecall Pro, we were founded in 2013 and we launched Housecall Pro in 2015 out into the market. So it's been a decade now, which has been crazy. But we serve the residential home service pros that are out there. So think HVAC, plumbers, electricians, people doing fiber seals, like smaller roofing companies, all kinds of different home service, repair, just service businesses. And so we provide them with a tool that helps them run their business, both grow it, make it more efficient. We talk about AI. There's all kinds of fun stuff that we do. We have accounting, we've got payroll, we've got websites, we've got marketing. We just have the full gamut. So think of us as like an all-in-one shop to help you do the things that normally you probably don't want to do, which is get back to, turning the wrench, talking to customers, get a new business, making connections, and then we'll handle all the rest.
Yeah. So that's pretty, you made something that's pretty complex, pretty simple there. But tell me the inspiration. You're a co-founder in the company, so that's interesting, right? So you got a chance to, what was that inspiration with you and your partners that kind of led to this amazing platform?
Sure. So, when we first started the company, back in 2013, Uber was just one of those companies that was coming out. Uber, obviously now everybody knows about, but we were thinking, hey, can we build Uber for home services? And really what that turned into is this like, hey, really the pros, so the drivers, quote unquote pros, they didn't have an app. They were just using pen and paper or a combination of free products like Google Calendar and Square or QuickBooks. And so we thought, hey, why don't we build an app for them? And so we really focused on Housecall Pro. We launched that in 2015 and we were kind of off to the market, but we just saw an opportunity where it was underserved and there weren't a lot of great mobile native apps out there because our pros are on the go. They're not sitting at home in front of computers like me and you. We don't have fancy podcast setups, none of that cool stuff. They're out in the truck or they're in the attic or, they're under the crawl space. So they've got their mobile phones with them constantly. And why couldn't they run their entire business from their pocket? So that's what we built. And from there, now we have over 50,000 or so home service professionals serving 99% of all zips in the United States, just everywhere across 55 different industries. And then we have a whole bunch of franchise companies that use us as well, that have gone out there, that have really systemized their business. And, it probably comes as no surprise when, you get into the franchise world, you need to have a playbook that works. Mm-hmm. You need to have something that is like a standard operating procedure. You click this, you do this, and, you got to make it repeatable. And so with Housecall Pro, we help franchises do that, and deliver that same experience regardless of which location they're at. And so that's why I'm just excited to be here talking to you.
Yeah. No, and what you just said again is difficult. Like when you think about franchising, it was certainly around way before technology, or not all technology, but internet technology. And then the internet came along the last 30 years. And it's like, how do we get technology to help us do what you just said? Stay in line with this process and this step-by-step procedures and operations, and not easy to do, right? Especially over time, technologies have evolved, but we're always easy to talk to each other and and, expensive, and you needed certain skills, and it's gotten easier to use technology, but we've also now gotten just so much of it, right? Such an explosion of resources, right? So for industries like home services, to have a platform like yours is unique because you guys have kind of addressed that fact that it's kind of that all-in-one platform that can help a business model like the companies you serve, and it is hard to get that systemized process. So tell me a little bit about your journey here. So started in 2013. What were some of the pivotal events that kind of shaped your product? Like, I'm sure there have been times where you thought, okay, it's going to be this, and maybe you adjusted, and the market gave you feedback. But how is that kind of is there some things you can point to that have helped you shape the product and it kind of led to the features that you have today?
Yeah. So when we first launched, we were mobile and mobile only because that was our thesis. And so the core part of the market that we addressed were the folks that are always out and about and they didn't have access to a desktop or, bigger iPad or something, so they needed a mobile app only. And as we started to grow as a business, we really started to see a lot of folks would have office managers, or admin folks or spouses, at home that would run some of the back end operations. And so, we pivoted from being mobile only to having both mobile and web. And for anybody that's listening that's into software development, building for mobile is much more difficult than building for web because you have to ship it to the stores and then they have to approve it and it takes some time. So you have to be a little more thoughtful in how you go to market. Versus web, if you make a mistake, boom, you could ship another update real quick, fix live,
Right.
And there's no gates per se to get through. And so for us, once we started addressing the larger part of the market, which were bigger companies, we really need to pivot and having just more a holistic approach, whether you're at home or in the truck on a computer or wherever you are. We had to have a web experience plus a mobile experience. But together, those two work really well because you've got a lot of space on web. So if you're doing dispatching, for example, in the office and you need to look at different routes and different people across a big calendar, it's nice to have that real estate. But if you're out in the phone and the field, and you're using that, having your own jobs just really easily visible and boom, 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 this is my route for today. Just having that at your fingertips is really important. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. One, which is you've got all the space in the world to kind of look at things on a map. And then the other one is very just focused on, hey, these are the tasks I need to accomplish today, the customers I need to go see, the things I need to go do. I just need to get that done. So those two things, that was just one moment that we had that kind of, we got to build both. And now, we've got so many different pros using it, and it's probably half the pros are on the web and half the pros are using mobile.
Yeah, certainly the mobile explosion occurred in the 2010s, and if you didn't have ways to serve people in front of a mobile screen, and of course with your business, it totally makes sense. That was so much of their team is mobile and moving around and looking at a small screen. So very cool, very very cool. So thinking about operations, thinking about when I think of your name, like Housecall Pro, and I think, you can almost say that's a Housecall Pro brand, right? I kind of thinking like they're powered by you see that a lot with softwares and platforms. But I think of you guys, what you said earlier about, operations and really building a software tool that aligned with an operational procedure, right? That allowed people to work step by step, thinking of every role, every team member. How do you feel your software has reshaped, or how would you look at it? How has it kind of reshaped the franchise brands and or other brands you work with? How do they change how they now serve the public? I'm sure it's been a big transformation for those that don't use or aren't powered by something like what you guys do.
Sure. Look, I still think that when a homeowner gets an on my way text notification with the picture of the technician that's going to enter the home, it seems like such an obvious idea. But the reality is, in the home services, even in the franchise world, that's still a novelty, but it should be standard place. You're entering someone's home. Wouldn't that be nice? I know for my wife, just if some random person pulls up our driveway, it's like, what the heck is this? Who is this? Are they say who they are? And so simple things like that from an operational standpoint, if you didn't have software to do that, that'd be very difficult to do. Imagine how many, even if you've got a handful of trucks doing a handful of jobs per day, You got to be on it if you were to do that by hand. And so when you think about the value that that brings and the customer perceived value, wow, this is a professional company that's entering my home. If you are a franchise style company, you're not using software like Housecall Pro, you are falling way behind, way behind. And it's really hard to stay on top of small things like that. Now imagine cash flow is king, especially in the home services when you're dealing with the residential market. Most people are getting paid COD, which means they do the job, they get paid the same day. But now imagine if you weren't able to accept credit cards out in the field. Now you have to get cash and a check, and that might get lost in the truck, and then you got to bring it to the office, and then someone's got to do a bank run, but they don't have time to do a bank run. They only go to bank run once on Friday, and now all of a sudden they don't have cash from payroll, and oh my gosh. So same things there, for franchise. All those things should just be a part of what your technician can do out in the field within a second. And that takes a bunch of burden off of a lot of the operational nightmare that often comes with just trying to collect and keep track of all this stuff. 3 trucks on the road, doing 4 trucks a day, 12 jobs a day, 60 jobs a week. All of a sudden, pretty quickly, imagine the stack of paperwork, the stack of checks or cash you're trying to chase down if you're an office person. That's a lot of work. It doesn't have to be that way. I'd say the biggest feature is a checklist feature, especially for our franchise companies that use our software, because they have found a method that works and works great, which is hopefully why you bought into the franchise, right? And so they've got those preloaded into Housecall Pro. So as a franchise, you can set it up, a perfect account, a golden account, and then you can hand over those accounts. You can just duplicate and just give them to different locations. And that comes with all of your preloaded checklists, processes, all the things that you do, all the messaging, the price book, the way that your product name looks like, the descriptions. Take all that work off of your franchisees because they don't know. They're looking for you for this. This is why they pay you the royalties. This is why they're buying into your service. All of those things make for a very consistent approach. This is why hopefully as a franchisor you set up an amazing system here. And so inside of Housecall Pro, you can set each one of those up so that way it's always followed you, delivering that consistent experience regardless of the location that you're at. And that's really what's key to using Housecall Pro. And if you're a franchisor looking to systematize, what your process is that you figured out, that you invented.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, and I being been on both sides where I've served franchises as a vendor. And I've also worked internally to consult for, technology and operations and things. And yeah, this is so key. I mean, that's exactly right. People buy into franchises, especially as they first learn about it. They think a lot about systems and processes and checklists. And so just your whole platform is built to make that turnkey. And it's hard to do that well. You can't. Some franchisors may be big enough to have teams big enough, but very few. And even if they were, would it be strategic, right? To really focus the way you guys do and to have the capabilities your platform has. So really the key is just finding the alignment, finding the right tool so that your franchisees do have that success. And think about what you just said with cash flow, with, making the client feel better, the customer feel better, just good customer service, checkbox, right? Just things you think are pretty common sense, but the little details pile up, right? They just too much to do. So another aspect of your industry that I'm sure comes up is that skilled trades professionals obviously are in demand. And it's not an easy thing for your clients to manage, whether it's hiring, recruiting, and then retaining and things. How do you guys look at that? How have you sort of tried to serve your clients and deal with that reality that there's this constant demand and challenge to keep quality people? How does that impact you guys, and how do you?
So I'll say this. If you are a skilled trades professional and you are working for a business that does not have software like ours in place, I would go find one or start your own, because it makes your life so much easier and gets rid of all the paper headache and all of that. So when your question is how do you retain these people that are high in demand? Franchises that focus on having a work environment that does not include a lot of monotony and just overhead and just annoying processes to follow, especially because our software is cloud-based, real-time, updated in the field, allows everyone to communicate all at once, all in one place. It's a lot easier to keep employees happy, especially skilled tradespeople that just want to do their trade and solve customer issues and work on the job rather than the tedium of, filling out triplicate papers, checking the boxes on a bunch of things by hand. There's so little time that they have between one job from the next. They've got some windshield time, whatever the drive time is, and then boom, they're on to the next. And really, they shouldn't be doing anything when they're having windshield time. They should be feeling it. And so how can you make it really easy for them to get their job done so they're not feeling the administrative burden that you're kind of putting onto them? So I think long-term, happy employees is the key to delivering an exceptional customer service to those homeowners and delivering your core values. And if you don't have happy employees, you're going to struggle, and then you're going to have struggle retaining them. And I think those two things are highly, highly related. When you're hiring someone, bringing someone on board, if they see that you're using modern systems, they're going to feel much more supported, much more inclined to stay and go through the onboarding process as long as it's easy. There is software out there that's very it's just complicated, takes a long time to learn, and that's frustrating to skilled trade because they're like, I just want to do my trades. I don't want to have to learn a piece of software and have to figure out where all the buttons are and all this. And so there's expensive software out there that promises the world. You have to be thoughtful and careful in what you select because it is not easy for them to use out in the field. They're not going to do the things you want them to do because it's too complicated. So I think it serves many different ways in terms of retention, whether it's onboarding and hiring new people and impressing them in the way in, and then the retention side, just making it easy on them overall so they don't have to do, the tedium, the boring work, the stuff that they never signed up to do in the first place. So keep that in mind when, you're selecting software, when you're thinking about that for your business, whether you're a franchisee, franchisor, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that's key. I mean, what you said about people, think about just the feeling we all have when we want to go to work and produce a great product and serve somebody or do the work you're called to do. It's very hard to do when technology doesn't cooperate. We already know that, right? And so if you have a work environment where people are struggling with tech all day, it is what an impact it'll have to not customer service, employee retention, probably how much work is getting done. All of that is impacted by that one thing. So how important is that? It's everything almost.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So now I'm going to get ready to get into some interesting stuff. You had mentioned earlier before we got on that you're part of the innovation team, right? You're a co-founder and a big part of driving this platform. I wanted to ask you a two-part question. One, I wanted to get into AI, right? I wanted to talk about how are you guys evaluating AI and how that can serve your client. Again, going back to the principles you're just sharing, it's like what will help them, what will make their job easier, what will make them happier, that kind of thing. But before you get into AI and describing what you guys are doing, how do you manage your innovation process? So much you could do, right? How do you zero in? What is sort of that lens or that rubric you look through to try to, figure out where do we prioritize, especially with AI happening? Tell me a little bit about that, and then tell me what are you doing in your platform with AI and innovative things that are a little cutting edge and things.
Sure. So I say in general, our framework is simply built around our mission, which is championing our pros to success. Because if we make them successful, then they'll be successful, right? And we'll be successful. So for us, the more we can align with their needs, we're going to win. So what does that mean when it comes to AI? Our pros are in an industry that is very AI resilient from a job replacement standpoint. The jobs me and you have, any job where you're sitting, high replacement likelihood. Jobs where we're standing, we're not going to have Elon's robots jumping around in the attics or those crazy dogs, from Black Mirror, if you've ever seen that on Netflix, running around the crawl spaces. Not anytime soon carrying tools, although who knows, but still probably not for some time. And so I think as we look at what should we do to help champion our pros to success, one of the first things we really take a look at is, okay, what's one of the first jobs, if you're a skilled tradesperson and you go build a business, what's kind of the first job that you need to abdicate or delegate? The first job is answering your own phone. When you're on the job, in a crawl space, in the attic, whatever you're doing, and you can't get to that phone, you know that the customer is going to call the next one, call the next one, call the next one until someone picks up, gets them scheduled. So the first thing is, how can you get someone to answer your phone? Well, there's two ways. One is you hire somebody and all they do is answer the phone. Maybe hire an office manager. I don't know, depending on where you are, maybe that's a $50,000 to $70,000 a year job. But why can't we use AI to do that for you? And so one of the agents, we call them team members at Housecall Pro. One of the team members that we have is called CSR AI. And this is someone that will never call in sick, will work 24/7, answer your phone on the first ring every single time, and then helps that customer, that homeowner, get into your calendar, get onto your calendar. And why does that matter? Because now they're done. They're not going to go call anybody else, right? You still should call them back at a certain point. Say, hey, Rob, you spoke to my AI assistant, Roland. I'm glad to got you on the books. I see some of the notes. It seemed like you're having trouble with, the noise of the AC. Tell me a little bit more about it. Can you tell me when it happens or how cold it is outside when that happens? So think of it as just like an extra layer that allows you to capture the business that is yours to begin with. Because for some reason they're calling you. And so now you can focus on doing the work that you like best, which is talking to the customer, troubleshooting, solving problems, turning the wrench, doing those things, versus being tethered to your phone 24/7. I know that most pros don't answer the phone because I can see the missed calls that happen after hours. Right. And it's a wild statistic. It's about 40% of work comes in after hours. But you can probably imagine why, because the people that are calling for you have to work themselves. And so when they have time off is when it's time off of everyone's calendar, quote unquote. And so, when we think about what do we build next, how can we impact our pros? The first one is let's untether them from their phone. Let's let them have their weekend off so they can go spend it with their family. Let's have, if they want to clock out at 5, but not have the fear of losing that job, let's give it to them. And do it at a cost that's like 1/100th or 1,000th of the cost of a human to do it. So I think that's where standing jobs are very resilient. Sitting jobs are much more prone to disruption. And for our pros, it's one of the easiest things that they can implement into their business and have returns right out of the gate because it just makes sense and AI can handle it and they're never going to call in sick. So anyways, that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of how we think about, we always try to make our pros successful. We champion our pros to success. And one of the first things that is making them not successful or keeping their eye off the ball is having to answer their phones. So that's where we diverted a bunch of AI energy to go to fix that. Now we have a CSR AI team member. Our pros can add to their business, click of a button, and boom, it just works.
Just works. I love that. And I know you have some other team members in that AI platform, right? So you want to just highlight a few of those?
Sure. I mean, look, when you're running a successful business, it's difficult to sometimes know, for example, hey, how many condensers did Rob install in the month of February so I can pay him his commission check? It's a simple question. But in the old world, you'd have to log in. You'd have to sort it by February. You'd have to sort it by employee type. You'd have to sort it by condenser installs, right? You really have to kind of pivot a table on a pivot on a report. And you have to drill down to get to that answer. But a human would take, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes to go do that for all of your employees every single month. That adds up.
Yeah.
AI, you can just ask it and it'll do that for you. It'll build a report and give you the answer. So that's our analyst AI. And, there's lots of other great AIs we're working on under the cover, both our coach AI. So this is just, hey, you're running the business a little hot. Your books, your schedule looks a little empty. Your percent marketing spend of your total gross is running a little low based upon what your goal was for the year. I suggest you spend an extra $1,000 on your Google LSA ads, this month. Okay, wow, that's interesting insight. Thanks, coach. And so Coach AI is designed so that our pros can focus on their business and the product they deliver versus, oh man, do I have enough ad spend for this given week? It seems a little light, but maybe not. This thing's constantly monitoring everything for your business 24/7, running so many calculations every single minute just to make sure that your business is on track. So having these extra superpowers, these extra team members on your team for such a small fraction of the cost of what a human would cost. No home service business would be like, all right, I'm going to hire a business analyst. Like, at what size do you have to be to hire a business analyst? 3 trucks, 40 trucks? I don't even know. But now imagine you can put the power of that in the hands of someone that's maybe, running a family business with 3 to 4 trucks, only doing a couple $1 million a year. Right. And so now it's possible. And so across, what we have at Housecall Pro, whether it's the Coach AI, the Analyst AI, the CSR AI, we're building out Accountant AI, all of these kind of functions that are eating into these sitting jobs to help our pros do more of their standing job is really important, because our pros, they love getting out in there in the field, talking to customers, solving problems, turning the wrench, doing the work, but coming home to a stack of invoices, trying to figure out how to pay taxes, what can I deduct or not deduct, and just all of these other things. They didn't really want to become a full business owner and learn all the things. They just wanted to be a tradesperson and make a great living. And because there's such demand for the supply, it makes it really easy for them to adopt a tool like Housecall Pro to help them with all these other things that they didn't really want to do in the first place. And same applies to franchisees and franchisors, right? They want to build a better, roofing glue product or something, that they want to install across all the roofs in the United States. Like, focus on that. Don't focus on trying to help your franchisees figure out their books. Like, keep that off their plate, And so that's when they come to us, to Housecall Pro, to help with, running their business.
It's, as I'm listening to you, I'm just thinking, and I was going to ask as you were, and you kind of started to talk about it, like the non-franchise market, right? Just the independent market. I mean, man, what an opportunity for them to have a platform like yours. Like, and I'm going to assume it's affordable, right? For, like you said, a small operation, a family business. And many of them don't have the advantage of a franchisor, right? Which is why we always talk about how great franchising is, because of what it provides you, again, allowing you to focus on what matters most and alleviating some of the grind, right? But you guys, you have that, you can make that available to almost anyone, right? I mean, and then AI is taking that even further. Like, you were saying things that I don't think, as you said, you just would never think to do it because it wouldn't be practical. But if you said, well, if it was free, would you do it? You'd be like, yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great to have that, and it's like you've got a bunch of those tools now available and affordable, built in to the platform. So as I said, I'm almost tempted to pick up a hammer. It seems so streamlined. I don't know. I did a little of that. I'm a little older, so I got a little of that in me. But yeah, no, that's amazing to hear, and good work on that. I would say you guys are definitely out there. You're cutting edge. A lot of folks are starting to do it, AI first SaaS platforms, but not a lot of softwares or as far as what I could see on your site. It was really good that you built all that in. So that's amazing. I think that's important with you guys, right? For your business future. So thinking about what we just talked about, is there, and as a co-founder and an owner of this platform, I know you are proud of it, and I know what that feels like. You know what I mean? And is there any stories that you would want to share, like just an aha moment with a customer that they were just like blown away about how it turned their business around or changed their day or made things work better for them? Anything you want to share that just kind of you just kind of touched your heart as an owner or as a founder, and just proud of what this thing could do?
Sure. I think maybe it's more of a somber story, but you said touch my heart. But I think a lot of people are like, wow, you've been doing this now for 12 years. That's a long time. How could you continue to do that? I remember during COVID, when it hit, there was one of our pros, Steve Maldonado. He's in Texas, Maldonado Plumbing. But he called me when he was in the hospital before he went on the ventilator. And he said, and he could barely talk, because he could barely, breathe. And he said, thank you so much for everything Housecall Pro did for me and my business and my family. We'll thank you after I'm gone. I was like, whoa, that's wild.
Who called
That's
you? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, from the hospital, on his effective deathbed. And so, that's just such a crazy story that's so touching. And there's so many different stories. But that one is something I still think about. And then so it knows like,
Do
yeah.
you talk about that much, or is this kind of like brought it out? I mean, that's really impactful. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think, I talk about it sometimes, but not often enough, I guess. Because it's sometimes hard to share and even think about,
yeah,
because there's always so much political controversy around that kind of stuff. Not about the story itself, but just around COVID. But it's stuff like that, or we've had pros come out to our headquarters and get Housecall Pro tattoos. It's just like
that's pretty cool.
that people are doing that, so that's when we know like the impact that you're having really matters. And I think because it's a product that allows people to go spend more time with their family and things that really matter in life, I think that time back is worth. You can't even measure it. and so building tools that can help our pros be successful, but not just their professional lives, but just like their personal lives, the way that it touches them and the way that it helps their family get that time back. And that's a really fulfilling part of the job for sure. And that makes it easy to do this, because you're making a real impact on people's lives. And getting calls like that and having experience with people like, doing tattoos. Those are just like things you never would imagine when you go to start a business.
Yeah.
And so, that's really, really, really touching, and it helps, do the grind, to go build a business like ours. So, and then working with great brands now, there's so many different franchises, using our software, that's out there to help systematize things, Resi brands, veteran service brands, Empower brands, Fiber CO, Quick Dry, just like a massive amount of franchises use, our software.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat to see.
Yeah. No, the tattoo, you got me at the tattoo, and I'm sorry, but someone to think of you at that stage, at that point, that's amazing. And you know what? You did say it. Like, if something is impacting your day to day, every day, whether it's helping you earn more money, helping you spend more time with your family, taking the stress out, allowing you to be happier, that's everything. And that's what that gentleman understood. And that's why he called you. And that's amazing. Amazing stuff. I know we'll both start getting choked up. We keep talking, but what I want, because I love software. I get passionate about, you and me, we could probably talk about software, like, something that works well and helps you do what you do better. It's just really enlifting. And so you're part of that. But so, like, when you think about, just kind of a final question here, as we wrap things up, as you think about the future, I know for me, I'm in the tech space too, and AI is at the forefront of what we're focused on. It is coming quickly, right? And it's sort of this new way of sort of, how do you sort of sort and sift and deal with everything coming at you? There's a lot of noise, and you've got a great team, I'm sure, and you and everybody else that is over there are being exposed, right, to what's coming at you. What do you see happening? What is your priority for, say, 5 years, 10 years for Housecall Pro? How do you deal with this rapid change? And do you have sort of a vision where you think things will go? How are you seeing it right now?
Yeah, I think first, only, growth and comfort, they don't coexist. And so, with this rapid change, I feel like there's an increased opportunity for those that want it. Which means you can stand on the sidelines and just kind of think it's a toy. I'm referring to AI and kind of use it for silly things, or you can really start to kind of dig in and how would you use it. And I think it's sometimes hard when you're bombarded with like, oh, this is the new best model. Now this is the new best model. Oh, the end of the day, all that matters is that you have a growth mindset and that you're always taking an opportunity from anything that you do to learn from failure, because there is no failure. There's only failure to learn. And so I think in his next 5 to 10 years, it's important to remember that. And as business owners, as entrepreneurs, it's even more important. And it's also even more important that your employees see you think and behave and operate in this way. Because the best thing that you can do is get leverage through people, through leadership that can become autonomous and behave and model your own behavior. And if they're constantly learning, then they're not going to leave you. If they have the room to learn, if they have the room to be autonomous, they'll learn like just the opportunity. Now in the next 5-10 years, things are going to move fast, really fast. So maybe set aside some time. I suggest people, can you do something once a week or once a month where everyone gets together and just shares ideas or shares things that they've tried, and not ridicule those, celebrate the failures, no. What did you learn from that? How can you collectively become better? And so if you build your companies in such a way, you're going to put yourself in a great position to reap a lot of the benefits that are going to come from the people that are actively continuing to be curious and actively learning versus those that are just settling or feel like, this is moving too fast. I'm just going to get left behind at a certain point. So, yeah.
So, and I just had a little follow-up question. I was just thinking as you were sharing that the demand for these pros is increasing. We are in this world now with AI encroaching on all industries. And you have these young folks, right? And a lot of them probably think about, should I get into the business of being a skilled tradesperson, professional? Do you have any advice for that market? Because obviously that's a big part of your platform, and the future franchisees or future business owners, what would you say? Because I think a lot of people are wondering, what do I focus on? What do I invest in for my career? Like my kids are at that age, and even just giving them advice. But what would your advice be to someone who's leaning in that direction?
Try to find somebody that you admire and appreciate and you would trade places with to take advice from. So if you can find somebody that you're like, that might be me in 5, 10, 20, whatever it is years, and you'd be willing to trade places with them, follow and see what they do. What are they talking about? What are they looking at? What are they reading? What are they listening to? I think that having that as an extra source of inspiration is really key, regardless of the trade, regardless of what you're trying to do from your career, regardless whether you're your own business owner or a franchisee or whatever it is. But I feel like that's always helped me, regardless of what time we're in or what tools are available to us. I think our time is finite. And so having great inspiration is important to making sure that, you're holding yourself accountable and living up to your potential. And so, you might see glimpses of things in multiple different people that you admire. And so I think, you have to stay curious and you have to constantly learn. You have to have that growth mindset. You have to make sure there's no sacred cows, meaning, if you have a belief, you should be willing to change your belief, presented the right evidence. And as long as you maintain a healthy, skeptical, but healthy mind, I think you'll be fine. But don't focus too much on like meta things that are going around you, politics, all those things. All of that's just like a distraction and likely will have very little impact on you. So focus on what you can control, and the stuff that you can't, don't let it bother you. Because if you do, it's just wasted energy that you could be putting towards something much more meaningful. So hopefully that helps.
No, I loved it. It's good advice. I love asking questions like that. The trade trading places. I love that idea. Emulating who you want to become. I think it's a pretty common idea, but very well said. And I do appreciate the impact that your brand is making. It's cool. It's very cool. I love cool software. I love cool business ideas, especially when they transform customers and their customers. So appreciate your work there, and thank you for your insights today. Before I let you go, is there just one you want to share, the best way to get a hold of your brand and maybe anyone who would be interested in learning more about the platform and product?
Sure. I always put my number out there. You'd be surprised at how little people actually call or text me, but my number is 858-215-1512. If you're interested in Housecall Pro, you can obviously go to our website. You can Google us. You can Google my name. You can figure out who I am. But shoot me a text. If you want a deal on it, or if you think you've got a great idea, whatever it is, I'm open. I'm mostly in Zoom meetings most of the day, but if you call, I might not pick up. But shoot me a text. Be happy to connect you to the right folks on my team, given your circumstances or whatever you're trying to accomplish. So feel free to reach out, but housecallpro.com, shoot me a text, whatever way you want. I'm easy to find and happy to talk to anybody.
Wow. Most of you guys, a lot of you guys do that. And I always say, take them up on that bad boy. Roland Ligtenberg is the co-founder of Housecall Pro. He's the guy you should text or call. He'll definitely guide you. So if you have any questions, do that. But again, Roland Ligtenberg, thank you for being on Franchise Marketing Radio today. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Rob. This is awesome. Happy to jump on again in a future date. And like I said, keep at it, and see you guys on the flip side.
Absolutely. We're going to keep telling the stories, and I would love to have you back because I know you're going to keep innovating. So we'll go from there. Good deal.
Bye all.